and I'm excited to be sharing the stage with them through the day. Our first speaker, Reem, is an absolutely phenomenal woman, a woman I greatly admire. She's come a long way. She is a cultural consultant and co-founder of Dukkhan Media and podcast. She does brilliant work. I've watched her during the time where I was in the corporate world and we were both going through so many things when it came to burnout and transitioning and figuring out really what we could give back to society. And here she is standing in her power. She's going to deliver a powerful talk right now on the creative economy. That is her space. I love everything that she shares, and people flock to listen to her. So I want to welcome Reem, and I also want to thank, once again, the Dubai Businesswoman Council for making this possible. Without their help over the last year, we wouldn't have this beautiful venue to share together, and we wouldn't have the support that we do. And this goes back to collaboration and union. So a shout out to them for sure. Reem, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just gonna check the clicker before we're good. Okay. So in the Arab world, there is a running joke about the things that you can become when you grow up. You can either be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, or you can be a disappointment. So today I'm here to represent the economy of disappointments and answer the question like our parents are asking, which is, do you have a real job? And the answer is usually yes. Creatives have a real job. We care very much about what we do. And it takes a lot of heart to be a creative in the Arab world because we do step aside from the traditional norms of what people believe is successful. And it takes a lot of heart and to create change. So we believe at Dukkhan, which is the company that my team and I have proudly built, we believe that change begins at the heart first. And then it goes to your homes. And then it goes to your communities. And then it goes to your cities, then your countries, and then the world. But it always starts with the heart. And let's take it to the heart. We started out as a podcast 4 years ago or 5 years ago when no one knew what podcasts were. Omar Tom, who's at the front over there in Sharjah in a little apartment, thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stake our claim and build a space for people like us. And the show grew out to include myself and Akawi, who is there in the back. And what we do, at the heart of what we do, is we actually tell the stories that we believe don't have space in mainstream media. And that is part of what the creative economy is supposed to be doing. The core question of what we ask every time we sit at the table, now in business and when we started the podcast, is where is home? So OT, who started the podcast, was born in Sudan, he was raised in Sharjah, he studied in San Francisco, and he built his business here in Dubai. He's been here for 32 years. This is Mohammed Akawi. He was born in Lebanon, raised in Abu Dhabi, and he's our business partner, so he has business here in the UAE as well. I'm Iraqi, Filipino, Canadian. I am an immigrant, and I'm a UAE expat. I have a Muslim dad and a Christian mom. I've lived in 5 countries, and I've been in the UAE for 14 years. So, where is home? At the heart of Dukkhan, we called the podcast Dukkhan because the Dukkhan is like a bodega or a corner store, the center of community. And we would come to the microphone every week and discuss the things that we would go through, just like many people do in front of the Dukkhan or the baqala or the bodega. And we lived our lives trying to figure out who we are and where is home. So things started to happen. We put this podcast out there, and then we realized, oh, people are listening. And we started to get fan mail. And you can see this is from Facebook Messenger. So this is like before Instagram and before, this is how old this fan mail is. And this is a gentleman from, there were so many of them, but this one in particular is from Arizona. And he said, over the last month, I've learned more about the Arabic world than I ever thought possible. I listened to 53 episodes over the past month. We realized we're actually the first Arabs he knew. And we're actually probably the first Muslim people he's actually ever interacted with. And it was just our voices telling our stories. And he basically called himself a third culture kid, which is what we all are. And he said, we taught him about Ramadan, and we taught him about what our fashion means to us. And when he hears people mention, oh, and so you can see now we've updated. Hector has now moved into WhatsApp, so we've kept in touch. And so he says, when I hear about people mention the Middle East, any part of it, I always tell them they have no idea what's going on there. The creativity, the love, the innovation, it's extraordinary. And through your show, I had a chance to peel back the curtain and marvel at the world I saw. So that was cool. We obviously got a friend in Hector, but what was amazing, obviously, was that we connected over the strangeness of our voices on a platform, just telling the world what Dubai was about and our lives were about. And then one day, this is at the Cannes Lion Festival of Creativity in France. This is Yusuf Dukkhan, and he was doing a talk on the new tribes of Arabia. And he called the Dukkhan show the voice of the Arab digital generation. And it dawned on us. This thing that we'd started, that OT had started from his little, space, this is the first iteration of Dukkhan in Sharjah, has now become a portal. And we were now a voice from the Middle East to the world, whether we liked it or not. That's the power of collaboration, community, and staking claim on your narrative. And we thought, how come? How are we the first people to get to Hector? What image did Hector have of us before he heard us? And the answer is, no one actually asked us how we wanted to be represented in mainstream media. No one asked me how I was going to be shown across all of the platforms when they say Arab women, or Filipino women, or Sudanese men, or third culture kids. All everyone knew was when we said, I'm from the Arab world, a very clear definition came to their minds. And so we realized now we have a platform. No one asked us. So our job is to show the world what we see. The remarkable women who every day stake their claim and change the landscape of the Arab world for the global sphere. Women who really care about the world and the work that they do. How am I going to show the world her? And so OT has a background in strategy. Akawi has very deep history in brand collaborations and building great brands. And I had a production and legal background, so we decided to create a consultancy to help businesses understand the people of the Middle East. And we called it Dukkhan Media. It was a response. We built our business as a response, not as a call. And I thought that was interesting because we knew we had a problem to solve. So the portal now became an engine. And we decided to lean into our community and use data to prove who we are, to showcase what culture and community can build when you have wonderful collaboration. The future of the Arab world, in our opinion, in the creative space, is actually all in the data. And so we decided that our consultancy was not going to show pictures, but we were actually going to get into the communities, learn about people, and have brands talk to us in our way, rather than give us the voice that, because we consume so much content that's simply not ours. So Dukkhan helps businesses understand the people of the Middle East now. And in true Dukkhan fashion, I'd like to change the title of my talk, because this talk was very long. This talk was, we've interviewed 200 creatives, and this is what we've learned. However, I'd like to change that today. A series of epiphanies that no one asked for, but we're giving it to you straight because we refuse to be misrepresented any longer. That's the new title of my talk. Thank you. So I'm going to take you through a few creatives who have sat through our podcast. And the podcast is, we are long form. We allow people to speak because we want to create time capsules. You were here in Dubai in 2016, and this is what mattered to you. This is Salim Al-Qasmi. He is actually the founder of Fikra Studio in Sharjah. They run the most remarkable team, remarkable work. And he taught us that we're here to create and redefine, not just to work. In his episode, I actually said, sometimes I don't really feel welcome here because I don't connect too much with Emiratis. And he looked at me and said, you're here to do the work, we welcome you. It was the first time I'd heard, oh, I belong here, and we belong here. But the future is about redefining, and young people are redefining as we speak. This is Trinidad James. At the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, Trinidad was going into communities and teaching us how to promote and work with Black-owned businesses. And we thought, actually, we brought him on the show and we said there's a likeness. We don't support female Arab-based businesses. I don't look at someone and say, oh, actually, her business first, because her business matters. We should do that. And we need to find the way, we have to really understand how to value our creative work, because actually creative work is highly devalued at the moment. And we need to figure out how to do that as a unit, So this is El Cid. He is a prolific graffiti artist, and now everything he touches turns to monuments. Everything he touches turns to monuments. You've seen his work across the city, and in his episode, he taught us something very, very special. All creative work requires collaboration, and collaboration is a contact sport. At the table every day are women combating, working, making the difficult decisions and having the difficult conversations so that we can create the world that we imagine should exist. And we should never forget that. Pasita Abad, she is a Filipino artist who's passed away, and her estate right now is touring her work. She's actually the first Filipino to have a full showcase here at the Jamil Arts Center. And if you think about how long Filipinos have been in the GCC, how is it that in 2020 is the first time someone's shown an entire, an entire collection of work? It is never too late to stake your claim on your narrative. And it is never too late to say your piece. And there's never been a more important time to say your piece. This is Odyssey, and he's a rapper, but more importantly, he's now a dad, and he said to us that who you are and what you stand for are intrinsically intertwined. You cannot separate them. And if you try to, you're going to feel disconnected. And finally, not finally, but pre-finally, this is Carlos Mer, and he taught us that when you work in the creative economy, when you work as an artist, or you work in the arts and culture space, you have two passports. You have the passport that you have that defines your nationality, and then you have your culture passport. And that passport is what you use to get into the spaces that you need to. All of us have a second passport. If you work in accounting, if you work in banking, that second passport requires collaboration, it requires community, and it requires bravery, courage. Courage, my love. So for our 200th episode, we decided, how are we going to mark this amazing milestone? We'd somehow made it to these remarkable places. And we said there's only one person that we want on our show, and if she's not going to do it, we'll just do 3 of us celebrating the 200th episode. We asked the question, and thank God, Her Excellency Noor El-Kaabi, the Minister of Culture and Youth, was our 200th episode. And in our episode, and I believe in a strange way the world shows us exactly what we need, she challenged us. She said it's no longer about where is home. The question now is, who are you? Who are we? As Anne said, 200 plus nationalities, 85% expats. Who are we in this space? The creative economy right now is driving that question, and it demands that we stand and pledge allegiance to who we are. And home, we found out after interviewing over 200 people, is where your feet are. That's the answer. Home is where your feet are. If you're sitting in a room, and that's the thing, sometimes as a woman, I'm the only woman in the room. If my feet are here, I belong in this room. That's my home. So the question now, the new iteration, who are we? It's now a call to action, but rather a call to adventure. We have to ask ourselves, who are we, in order to define the future and stake claim on all the initiatives that we believe are the most important things that we need to tackle today. As humans in the creative economy, as the voice of the Arab digital generation, as the future of art and culture, as people who add value through our creative imagination. All of those things are how a podcast from Sharjah turned into a portal, which is now an engine that gives data into the economy, because we decided we were going to be a resource that builds resources. And the truth is now, is we want to show you who we are, and we believe that everybody here has to show us who you are, because we're all listening. And a few months ago, I was watching a theatrical presentation, and I heard this statement: until all our I ams become we ares. And I thought that was beautiful. So what is the work? The work is, we need to work until all our I ams become we ares. And until then, we love you. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time. I believe we're doing a little Q&A. Is that?
Yes, that's
Thank you.
right. Does anyone in the room have questions for Reem? Yeah.
I'll just put this, I'll hold it.
Good morning, everyone. This morning is definitely one of the best mornings I've been. I had to cut down a few meetings, but I think it's all for my collaboration with the women power from India that I come from. And over the last 2 years, I spent a lot of time with some real fantastic women who are making the difference in the startup world. And I just wanted to be part of this community. And it's lovely to see the kind of passion you have in what you do.
Thank you.
So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Only one question that I'll be asking you, which I've asked every single female warrior out there, is what is that inspiration that you have on a daily basis? Not for your goal, but as a daily, your routine, what drives you?
What drives me, quite simply, is that I set my North Star as freedom. Until we are all free, none of us are free. I believe that was Audre Lorde. So when I wake up in the morning and I see inequity, inequality in any way, I'm driven to be that change somehow. But as Anne had said earlier, burnout is a true thing. And when you are driven, you drive yourself right to burnout. So it is about creating a space to love yourself enough to pull back for the greater good. So I mark my North Star as freedom, and I know we'll get there. But in the meantime, it is about calibration, constant course correction and calibration.
Great. More power to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Anne's got the mic.
I'll join you on stage.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Reem.
Thank you.
Tell us, what is the future you see for Dukkhan Media?
The future for us is at the heart of it is we need to get into every community and every space in the world that is marginalized, that needs a voice. So the work is cut out, and we are the voice from the Middle East to the world. So until we are defined in our own way by our own voice in mainstream media, Dukkhan's work doesn't stop.
I think you're doing powerful work, and it's something that's needed, especially someone who's grown up here. I think this is the right time. What is your take on the expo in this whole cultural, upheaval? I would even say like cohesion. It's a time for cohesion, but it's also a time of unraveling old narratives into new narratives. So what's your take on what the expo has done for the UAE?
So the expo, as we know, the expo was delayed a bit because of the pandemic. For a lot of us in the creative industry, the expo was a mark of faith and courage that, okay, we are going to get out there, we are going to be together, we are going to welcome people, and we are going to celebrate culture. That was a really important moment for our industry, not only because a lot of people suffered financially, but also it gave us a safe space to say, we're creative now, and this is what we need to say in our spaces. The only way to tackle Expo is apolitically. You walk around and you have to remove all the barriers so you can figure out how to connect to people. I met somebody from Tonga. Like, I met somebody, I was looking around at the countries and I said, well, what does your fabric feel like? What does the culture sound like? Expo is an opportunity for us to remember that we're actually made for each other. We were actually more the same than we are different. And I'm so grateful for that experience from a cultural perspective.
That's amazing, Reem. I love what you said about, we need to work towards shifting from the I ams to we ares.
Absolutely.
How do we do that?
I think at the heart of it, it's collaboration first. It is about getting together and working as teams to, towards a common goal. But more importantly, you have to find out what is the ship that you're going to be driving, because I think there are a lot of buzz causes, and at the end of it, true change happens in the minutia. It happens in the details, in the dailies. And so for us, it is about getting into the minutia, not being afraid to have difficult conversations, and working and knowing you're going to make a lot of mistakes. We made so many mistakes. I'm making a mistake right now, I'm sure. Like, while I'm here, I'm making a mistake right now, and we'll recover. I think that was
Fail forward, darling.
That way. Yeah.
All right, we're in it together. Thank you so much for owning the stage and
Thank you so much.
representing women in such a beautiful way.
Thank you for your time, everyone. I really appreciate it.